Hello, my fellow statistical scholars. Today I am going to be doing our final review video, which is going to be on number 28 and number 29. I do not want to switch to tablet mode. Um, so the big thing with probably 28 and 29 is they're both about type 1 and type 2 errors. So I'm going to be writing some hypotheses and, figuring out what's going on. So, I'm going to start, like you always should, by reading the entire problem. A patient named Diana is diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a long-term syndrome of body pain, and was prescribed antidepressants. Being a skeptic that she is, and Diana is initially believes that antidepressants would help her system. Didn't, sorry, believe that antidepressants would help her symptoms. However, after a couple of months and being on the medication, she decides that the antidepressants are working because she feels like her symptoms are in fact getting better. We're going to write some hypotheses and words for Diana's skeptical position, and then we're going to talk about type 1 and type 2 error in the context of this problem. So, her assumption actually starts out as negative, that the antidepressants are not going to help. So I would say that my HO for her, or my null hypothesis, would be, antidepressants. Sorry about that. It was reacting to my palm and is not reacting to the pen now. What the H? Draw. Pen. Okay, well, today's going to be a good day in Penland. Antidepressants do not help with symptoms. Of fibromyalgia. Oh my god, I spelled it right. Miracle. Okay, antidepressants got spelled incorrectly, but it doesn't count that way. Okay, so the alternative is they're gonna help. You know, they're gonna, treat the symptoms. Now, I'm just going to point out to you here that if you picked a different HO and a different HA, aka null and alternative, you will get a different description of the type 1 and type 2 error. So as you look at this, keep that in mind. Because remember, the type 1 error is that you're rejecting a true null hypothesis, and your type 2 error is failing to reject a false null hypothesis. So if I was to reject a true null hypothesis, aka I made a type 1 error in this context, then I would be rejecting this idea that the antidepressants, do not help with symptoms. So another way you could say that is you would conclude that the antidepressants work for the treatments when they actually don't. Yeah? So it turns out that it was false, but they're not. You know what I mean? You'd correctly say that it's like, pointing towards the alternative, that they work when they actually don't. So you're you would conclude, oh, come on, work. Antidepressants help with the symptoms. When they actually do not. Sadness. Okay. So type 2 error, like I said a few seconds ago, is failing to reject a false null hypothesis. So if I fail to reject, then I'm going to accept that the antidepressants do help. But it's not true. They actually do not help. That was very confusing. Let's try this again. So if I fail to reject the null hypothesis, right, then I'm going to say, hey, you would conclude that the antidepressants do not help with fibromyalgia when they actually do, which is how the H naught is false. So here you would conclude antidepressants. Okay, come on. do not work as a treatment. When they actually do help, which is sad. I have a friend who has fibromyalgia. Her name is Irina Sicilianu, which is a really fun Romanian name to try to say. Maybe I'll name my kid Irina. I like it a lot. They'd probably hate me for that, though. Anyway, so moving on to 29. I did that kind of quick. Let me back up for a second. So again, remember, rejecting when it turns out that it's true, failing to reject when it turns out that it's false. Let's try this again for 29. So we're going to write hypotheses in words, similar stuff, and then we're going to talk about problematic errors. I kind of like this one. So here we go. So we're looking at food safety inspector upon investigating a restaurant with a few customer reports of sanitation practices. The food safety inspector uses a hypothesis testing framework to evaluate whether or not the regulations are being met. If he decides the restaurant is gross, oh my god, I'm sorry, is in gross violation, its license to serve food will be revoked. I apologize. That was bad. Okay, so to do part A, come on. There's a little delay when I'm recording. I'm noticing this. It's probably worse on your end. So my null hypothesis is going to be that the regulations are being met. That's what I want to know. That's what the inspector would want to know. So that's the difference here. Nope, not erase. And then my alternative would be that the regulations are not being met. That one's a little scary. I'm not going to get into that yet. I'll get to that in a minute. Regulations are not being met. I hate the way that looks. There we go. So, let's talk about what a type 1 error would look like for this scenario. So, remember, type 1 error is rejecting something that's rejecting your null hypothesis when it was actually true. So you shouldn't have gone with your alternative. So you would conclude the regulations are not being met when they actually are. I love this question. Okay, so, and as you look at this, what would happen is, let me write a little bit more about that one. So here, you'd say that the regulations aren't met, and when they actually are. So here, what would happen, oh no, I want to write, not erase. You'd say that, well, then my restaurant would not pass inspection when it should have. Oh, come on. Oh, well, I'm sure you're going to look at this and think I'm insane. This is an HT Spectre computer, and since its name is Spectre, I named it Daniel Craig, because it's fun to name computers. That's so random. Okay, so, having lots of problems with the draw function today, in case that was unclear. My palm recognition is not working for some reason. Anyway, so again, your restaurant wouldn't pass inspection when it actually meets the regulations. That's bad. But like all errors, they appear to always be bad. So with the type 2 error, remember that's going to be I fail to reject my null hypothesis, and the hypothesis is actually false. So here you would conclude, hey, my regulations are being met, but they're actually not. So here you'd conclude regulations are met, when they actually aren't. So the truth behind this matter is that, you would actually pass the inspection when you don't meet the health code. So you don't meet the regulations. Okay, so on to D. This is kind of fun. So if you're somebody who owns a restaurant, you want to pass inspection and you want to be able to continue to operate and look good. So here, a failed inspection is what you want to avoid. So for you, the type 1 error would be worse. Because you want to stay open. And keep your restaurant. I've worked for some shady restaurants where they really didn't care how clean they were, and that's what makes me think this. Yeah, okay. So, for a customer, the type 2 error would be more concerning because you don't want to be eating trashy, gross food when you think it's safe. Because you want to eat in a safe environment. At least I think we all do. Well, I've eaten some pretty good food off of food trucks, and the idea of eating food from a truck is also super weird. Okay, so that is the end of that video, which I'm not even sure recorded. That is great. Oh, there it is. Come on, you. We are open. We are done. Peace out.